I don't need a gavel.
You got a big enough voice.
Everybody ready? Well, good afternoon. I show 2 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting in order. Deputy Mayor Tom Hutchison, and I'm Chair of the Committee of Adjustments. Item number 1 is calling the meeting to order. And again, I said it's 2 o'clock, so that's what we're going to call it. This is the September the 5th, 2023 Committee of Adjustment meeting. We do have a quorum, as indicated, obviously, with the members in attendance, and I do have Member Hutchison online. For this meeting, we're using both audio and video. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the West Grey website at www.westgrey.com. The technology for this meeting is being managed by the West Grey staff. Please refrain from clicking buttons throughout the meeting unless prompted. And before we continue, I'm asking Communication Coordinator, Ms. Ferguson, to provide an overview on some of the other key points for the meeting.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter meeting ID 871-5038-0700. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is being held in 2 locations, on Zoom as well as being live streamed on YouTube. Both members of staff and council have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software. Members of council and staff will be raising their hands to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance at any point during this meeting, you can send a chat message to me, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you. Takes us to item number 2, the purpose of the meeting. I'm going to call on Clerk Atkins-Fuller to please provide comments.
Thank you, Chair Hutchinson. The purpose of the meeting today is to allow the presentation of a minor variance application and 3 consent to sever applications, and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments regarding these applications.
Thank you. Item number 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. And members of the committee, if you have anything to declare, you can do it now. If one should arise during any point of the meeting, you can obviously declare at that time. And seeing none, we will move on to item number 4, and that is the approval of the minutes from the July the 4th, 2023 Committee of Adjustments. And the recommendation would be the Committee of Adjustments hereby approves the minutes of the July 4th meeting as presented. And I'd be looking for a mover, which would be Member Eccles, seconder, Member Shea. Comments or questions from the committee on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. All members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. Number 5 is staff reports. 5.1 is Director of Legislative Services Clerk. You could just read the report for 5.1.1. And if I may, Clerk Atkins-Fuller, if you could do the other, once we're done that, any other staff announcements we have? Thank you.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson, the Planning Act provides that the Committee of Adjustment shall appoint a Secretary Treasurer. Historically, the Development Services Admin Assistant has served as the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. In the past few months, there's been some staff turnover, so that role is currently vacant, and the new Development Services Admin Assistant is Tammy Wilden. So the recommendation in the report is that in consideration of the staff report, the Committee of Adjustment appoints Tammy Wilden as Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment effective immediately.
Okay, thank you. We will be looking for a mover. This appointment. Member Townsend, seconded by Member Eccles. Comments or questions on the appointment from any of the committee members? Seeing none. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. See, all members are in favor, obviously none opposed. And thank you very much. That motion is carried. And I just want to thank or welcome Tammy to the Committee of Adjustments, and we look forward to working with you. And we'll keep it slow pace for you for today. And did you have another announcement, Clerk Atkins-Fuller?
Through you, Mayor, Chair Hutchinson, yes, of course. Joining us today for the first time in person is our contract planner, Mary Hall. Mary joins us from the town of Caledon previously, where she served as the Director of Planning there. So Mary's helping us out in the Manager of Planning role temporarily.
Thank you. And Planner Hall? welcome as well. Look forward to working with you. Okay, so item number 5.2. This is Director of Infrastructure and Development, CBO. And if you could please read your report, 5.2.1. That would be B06 2022 Gates, and B10 2022 ELO. And if you could just read that report, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair, through you. The report is, we need to remove the conditions 5 and 6 from B06 2022 Gets and remove conditions 5 and 6 from B10 2022 ELO. Bill 23 was passed in November of 2022. And part of that Bill 23 amendment was the removal of an allowance to, basically, we're not permitted to put site plan control or signing site plan agreements on properties with 10 residential units or less. And 2 of those properties, these properties, as part of their consent, site plan control was a condition of their consent. And these were passed prior to the November 28th, but currently the agreement has not been entered into with that property owner. So because it was sort of in limbo halfway between, we requested our lawyer do a fact check on it, and he went through the requirements, and he provided an opinion that the conditions for those 2 properties should be removed, because if we enter into them at this point, they would not be enforceable. So that's why we're at this point where we're requesting the conditions be removed from the committee for those 2 properties.
Okay, so I will be looking for a mover to move the recommendation and a seconder, and then we'll go to comments and questions. I do see Member Forrester is going to be the mover. Seconder. Anybody online want to participate there? Member Hutch. Just so I don't forget about you, sir. Okay, we haven't moved in second. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the recommendation from our CBO? Member Eccles, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With these that are not, and this is kind of just a one-off, is there any other continuing one-offs on these of agreements? Do we see many more of these, or?
Through you, Chair, we did go back and go through all of the consents that were approved after November 28th and before November 28th. We have after November 28th, there were no, it wasn't requirement. We removed that as a condition from any of it was never brought forward as part of a condition. And these 2 are the only ones prior to November 28th that we've required a condition, but it hadn't been entered into. If it was a condition and we've already entered into the agreement, then it's fine. It can move forward. It's just these ones that we haven't entered into an agreement yet. So it was just these 2. We went back through all the files and checked.
Any follow-up, Member Eccles? There are comments or questions from the committee members? We do have it moved and seconded. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, if you just raise your hand, please. See all members are in favor. None opposed. That motion is carried. Okay, so that takes us to item number 6 on today's agenda, and that's minor variance application number A07 2023-522-708 Welbeck Road. And 6.1, we're going to call on Planner Hall to read a report and recommendation. And if you could just read that, and if you could include any verbal or written comments you may have received on A07 2023 as well. Planner Hall, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The application that you have before you today for the YAC minor variance is in regards to them wanting to construct a new building and structure on the property. Because of the unusual shape of that particular property, it actually is a pie-shaped lot with a lot of frontage and actually only 2 side yards. It results in the accessory building being in what would be considered the front yard defined under the zoning bylaw. In reviewing the application under the official plan and the zoning bylaw, obviously an accessory building is a permitted use within that particular land use. In the zoning bylaw, because it does actually define it as a front yard, although it is the definition of the zoning bylaw that creates it to be a front yard. It is actually quite removed from the road and will not have any impact on any of the roads and the way the road works, as well as there is a lot of forested area on the property that when the actual accessory building is built, you actually probably won't see much of it from the road. So from the test of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and if it's minor in nature, it was my opinion that it meets all those 4 tests and that the committee would be able to approve it as applied for.
Thank you. And did you receive any written or verbal comments at all that you could add or?
I was not advised by staff that you received any written or verbal comments.
Thank you. Okay, so that completes that presentation. So that takes us to 6.2, and that's verbal comments. And there's 2 parts to this part of the meeting. One is for the committee members to speak to the file recommendation, and then once that's completed, we'll go to the public for theirs. So I would be looking for the committee members if you have any comments or questions, and that would be under 6.2.1. Member Eccles, go ahead.
And this one, maybe for Mary or somebody else, it's always been a curious thing. Why is it such a problem to have an accessory building in the front yard? Yeah, I see a planner, but he's not really.
I will be going over to our CBO or to planner for a response. That was a good try there. CBO was a good try, but that's not, I'm coming that way.
Mike, I'll get.
There we go. Okay, it's red. It seems to be the common practice of zoning bylaws is that your main primary building is in the front yard. Everything else is in the side or the rear yard. So that when you're driving by the building or the lot, you can actually see that the land use is the predominant use on the lot. So in this particular case, because it is a substantial size building that is actually going into the front yard, because of the unusual shape of the lot, because it is a pie-shaped lot, it is contravening one particular section of the zoning bylaw that has to be amended or modified through a minor variance. It's minor, so obviously it's going through that process rather than putting them through a full zoning bylaw amendment. Hope that helps.
Not really, but that's I just never understood it as why on to the aesthetics of that portion of the zoning bylaw, how it was ever, if a person wants a garage in front of their house, what difference does it make to you, I, or the next door neighbor, and especially with technology, if we've got to check to see whether that's primary use? We have access to be able for the building department to drive in to take a look at the lot. We've also got drones, and I don't know how much aerial photography they can show it. It's just astounding that in today's world we have this, oh, we can't have your garage or something in front of your house because of something that used to be thought of 40 years ago, probably before either one of the planning professionals that are sitting in the audience were in the industry. I'm not getting a response from either one of them. And I know it was way before you ever started into the industry. Thank you.
Well, member Eccles, CBO actually wanted to answer that. I was looking over that way. May have a response.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do have a list of proposed amendments to the comprehensive zoning bylaw that will be coming forward in the fall, and that is on the list. In reviewing some other municipality zoning bylaws, there are some exemptions to that, automatic exemptions that wouldn't require it, and usually based on lot size and size of structure. So that's, I will be bringing a report, and that will be one of my amendments, especially in the rural lots where, you know, over 5 acres or something, that would, you wouldn't be required to apply for a minor variance if it was in the front yard.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to stay germane to what this particular one is here, though, but thank you very much for the heads up. All right, is there any other comments or questions from the committee members before we turn to the public? And again, that's speaking directly to this application. Seeing none, we're going to go to 6.2.2, and it's public comments. And I'm going to get Ms. Ferguson to please advise the members of the public how they can participate in this portion of the public meeting. And if you could just let us know if you received any comments or questions, or you have anybody in the queue who'd like to speak.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat to me, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. You can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak, and I haven't received any correspondence.
Thank you. And we do also have members in the chamber here. So if anybody would like to speak that's live, you can certainly put your name up and just go to the podium. Just let us know your name and we can go. So if you don't want to speak to this application, we will move on then. Seeing none. All right, so that's going to take us to 6.3, and that's decision. So what direction would the committee like to take with this application? You like the recommendation reread, or are we clear? Member Eccles is going to move. I'll be looking for a seconder then. Thank you, Member Eccles. And member, pardon me? When I look down, I've got Member Townsend, seconder. Is everybody clear on the motion? Doug, you can hear us? Member Hutch, you can hear us okay? Okay, you clear on the motion? Okay, thank you. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor, just raise your hand, please. See, all members are in favor. There's none opposed. This motion is carried. And that'll take us to the next item, which is 6.4. I'm going to ask Planner Hall to please let us know what the next steps would be.
Thank you. This is consent application B10, 2023, Elizabeth Hines. No? Oh, sorry. After this
would be the next
application?
steps
Oh, the
for-
next steps, okay.
Of
Sorry,
the
I'm not used to
application. We
doing
just
Okay, so obviously there is an appeal period, and within that appeal period, if there are no appeals to the minor variance application, it is in force and effect. If there's an appeal, then they'd have to go through the appeal to the tribunal to get a decision from the tribunal. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Hall. And we do that as a summary on all applications so that the public knows what's coming next. So just so you know where we do that. All right. Okay, next item is number 7 on today's agenda, and that's the consent to sever number B03 2023 and B15 2023 unassigned Park Street West. That'll take us to 7.1, and that is the report from the planning staff. Planner Hall, if you could please read the report and let us know if you've received any written or verbal comments around this application, or if you have not. Stephanie, okay, I apologize. Good, okay, we'll go, just let me know that next time. And I apologize, Planner Hall, for calling you. Okay, go ahead, Steph.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, just for clarification, just looking to read any comments received to date on this file. We haven't received it to what I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the recommendation from the file. And if you did receive in part of the report any written or verbal comments, is usually where we kind of capture those now in your presentation so that we don't go after them after the fact. So the floor is yours.
Super, thank you. Yeah, so the recommendation of this file is, sorry, I'll read through all items here. So payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of an entrance permit fee for the newly created lots from the municipality of West Grey, receipt of an acceptable entrance permit from the municipality of West Grey, completion of an erosion and sediment control plan to the satisfaction of the county's planning ecologist, final approval by Grey County of West Grey Official Plan Amendment 14, application to alter a regulated area submitted to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority and payment of $500 parkland dedication fee. And sorry, just for process clarification, do you want me to go through some of the highlights of this report at this time?
Yes, please.
Perfect, thank you. So some of the highlights here, we're dealing with 2 consent applications. We have B3 2023. It's to sever approximately 0.17 hectares of rural land and retain approximately 1.19 hectares of rural land. The effect of which will create a new residential parcel and retain a rural parcel. And the purpose of the consent application B15 2023 is to sever approximately 0.219 hectares of rural land and retain approximately 0.97 hectares of rural land. The effect of which will create a new residential parcel and retain a rural parcel. So just for some background history on this one, there are as well related zoning amendment application, a related zoning amendment application and local official plan amendment application for this property. Currently, under the municipal official plan, the lands are designated as future development and under that designation, lot creation is prohibited, generally prohibited. So that's what the local official plan amendment application is dealing with. It will be redesignating the lands from future development to residential, which is why we have the approval of that local official plan amendment as a condition of these consent files. The West Grey zoning bylaw also designates these lands as future development, as well as flood fringe overlay. This zone permits single detached dwelling residential units, but the property owner is looking to proceed with townhouse unit development on these lands, which is why it's subject to a zoning bylaw amendment. So just as a bit of background and context for this property, we did a thorough analysis based under the provincial policy statement as well as the county official plan. These lands are designated primary settlement area under the county official plan, which generally promotes a full range of residential, commercial, industrial, recreational, and institutional uses. Staff are also reviewed the subject lands with respect to natural heritage features. There are significant woodlands and other wetlands in a stream, the Saugeen River, in proximity to the subject site. Comments were received from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority with regards to the natural hazard features, and a clearance clearance has been issued by SVCA for the zoning and local official plan amendment, and there were no subsequent concerns or comments from SVCA with respect to these consent applications proposed today. The county's planning ecologist has had the opportunity to review the subject application and has made the recommendation through the associated zoning and official plan amendment files that an erosion and sediment control plan would be required. And through the consent process, this is where we can condition that piece. So it will form part of a condition for consent. We also would note that the lands are in proximity to a landfill. Study has been completed with respect to that landfill in proximity to the proposed future residential nature of these lands, and there are no concerns from a health and safety perspective. The more recent 2022 monitoring report was completed, and there were no issues from a groundwater perspective, methane, as well as surface water contaminants. And just general comments for this file, the applicant is advised that should the applications be provided provisional consent approval by committee of adjustment, the conditions stipulated must be completed within 24 months from the date of decision or the approval will lapse. And next steps will include the requirement to provide draft deeds once conditions have been fulfilled for review by staff. Once approved, it is the responsibility of the applicant to direct their lawyer to register the deeds with the Land Registry Office. A copy of the registered deed is required for the municipality's records. Should future development be proposed, the applicant is advised that further approvals may be required from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, who should be consulted prior to any development on these two parcels, and valid entrance permits for each parcel are required to be obtained and are confirmed for each parcel from the Municipality of West Grey Public Works Department. And that concludes my summary of my planning report.
Okay, thank you very much. And just want to make sure that the members did hear the next steps. So under 7.4 was already presented. So we want those repeated, or anybody in the public, we can certainly go back to that. So this is takes us to 7.2 verbal comments. 7.2.1 is the committee members. And again, committee members, this is your opportunity to ask any questions, make any comments regarding this application. Are there any comments or questions from the committee members? Member Eccles, go ahead.
Stephanie, in the report, the recommendations, yeah, I believe it's in the recommendation. No, sorry, it's in the highlights. That is the maximum amount of land that can be under residential out of this. Was it 1.5 hectares? Is the maximum amount already that's going to be proposed in residential under the 9 residential, or is there more land that could be in residential in the remaining 1.19 hectares? If we maximize the usage on this land.
Through you, Chair. That's a good question. All of the lands that are currently subject to the consent application would have allocated lands for residential. So there aren't any lands on these parcels that would be remnant that wouldn't be captured under the townhouse unit development. So there's no additional lands here that aren't currently subject to the proposed townhouse units development.
So the 1.19 hectares, in one place we're saying we'll leave it, or it's going to be in rural land. In another place, does it stay in future development? Or I'm just a little confused when we're doing the zoning on it. If it does have the potential, that 1.19 acres in the future, are we looking to have different zoning put onto that? Or at this point in time, could it be, I'm wondering why it's not all in residential and the 1.17 hectares. And maybe that's a question for one of the planners from the developer.
I do see CBO Shipwreck's got his hand up, so go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So there is a map included at the bottom of the notice of decision. If you want to have a look at that, might provide some clarity. So it does talk about the BO3 severance, B15 severance, and the proposed retained parcel. So that retained parcel would remain zoned future development, but within the official plan amendment has been amended for the entire parcel, but the zoning is only being amended on the B3 and the B15 parcel. So if they wish to do anything outside of the future development designation or plan zoning on the proposed retained parcel, another zoning bylaw amendment will be required.
And Chair, if I may, I think just the terminology use, I'm thinking that might be what's a bit of a confusion piece here, where there is reference here right under the highlights to a rural parcel. It's just simply noting that those lands are rural in nature, but the zoning isn't changing. They are going to be continued to be zoned future development.
Follow up, Member Eccles?
Just wondered if the planner for the developer could maybe offer comment as well too on why it was, what's the reasoning on being left the way it is?
Well, once if I may, sir, once we're done the committee comments and we turn it to the public, at that time, I could probably get a response. We could ask for a response, or I'm sure they would like to speak to it, but you have any other comments from the committee on that? Okay, thank you. Your mic's still on, sir. Is there any other comments from the other committee members? Before we do turn it to the public? Okay, seeing none. So this will take us to 7.2.2, and this is the members of the public. And again, excuse me, I'm going to have Ms. Ferguson advise members of the public how they can participate, and that would be virtually. I do see that we do have members in the chamber here that we could, I can take care of that part, but if you could do the other one, that'd be great. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being if you joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak online.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ferguson. All right. Now, if anybody in the audience would like to speak to this application, and if we could get you just to press the button, state your name for the record, and the floor is yours. Go ahead, please, and welcome.
Thank you, Chair Hutchinson. My name is Dana Kiefer. I'm a senior development planner with Colruyt Engineering and the proponents planner. I just wanted to maybe offer to council that I wonder if there was a small typo in the planning recommendation. So we are creating 2 severed parcels with 1 retained. I noticed when Stephanie spoke originally that she spoke to 2 retains, but it is 1 parcel right now. We are creating 2 severed off the front. I know it's small. Unfortunately, I can hold it up for you, but this is the parcel in its totality. There's going to be a 66-foot access out to Park Street left for those retained lands. And the severance before you right now is severance 1 and 2. So what we're doing right now is setting up the property to be able to construct 1 4-plex on this one and 1 5-plex on this one. It is proposed that we are going to further subdivide that using consents once they are constructed.
If I may, thank you very much. I just wanted to go to the clerk for clarity. This hasn't changed, it's amended, we've still captured it. If you could, for clarity, please.
Through you, Chair, there's nothing in the recommendation specifically in the wording that's proposed that speaks to 1 or 2 severances or 1 or 2 retained or severed parcels. So I think the recommendation as it stands is sufficient.
Thank you,
Perfect.
clerk.
Thank
I
you,
just
Chair.
wanted that clarity.
Thank
I
you, Chair.
apologize for interrupting, but I wanted to make sure that we're doing the right thing and we don't find out down the road that, oh, we've got to go backwards. So go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Hutchinson. Through you, I'm good with my presentation. I think Stephanie did a great job covering anything else, but I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you. Well, don't go away in just case somebody may have a question. You don't know. Is there any questions? Usually, I know we have completed the committee comments, but you know, while we have Dana here, does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Okay, circling back, nobody on virtually looking to, okay, that's good. All right, so that takes us to 7.3, and that would be decision. So what decision would the committee like to make with this one? We look for a mover and a seconder. And if you need the recommendation read again, we can always go back to that. Member Shea, go ahead, please. Okay, and seconded by Member Noon. Okay. Is everyone clear on the recommendation? Okay. Member Hutch, you're good to a recommendation? Clear on it? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can just raise your hand, please. All members are in favor. There's none opposed, so that motion is also carried. And during the presentation from Stephanie, we did hear some of the next steps. Does anybody need those reviewed again, or are we good with that? Okay, seeing none, then we will move on to item number 8, and that's the consent to sever number B10 2023-343028 concession 2 NDR. Now 8.1 is the planning report from the planning staff, and I believe this time I am going to Planner Hall, And if I could get you to please read your report, consider on this application, consent to sever B10/2023. If you include any written, or if you didn't receive, maybe the CBO or some of the staff, any written or verbal comments they may have received. Planner Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application is actually a lot line adjustment that actually, I guess, should have been done quite a while ago, but they finally have decided to apply for it. What has happened is that there is part of a paddock and a laneway that actually is on the Heinz property that they wish to convey to the abutting property. So the applicant has come in to make that application. We have reviewed that application in the provincial policy statement. There are no concerns in regards to the provincial policy statement. The County of Grey has provided us with their comments in regards to this lot line correction. And they have indicated that they do not have any issues with it and that the retained lands are greater than 0.4 hectares. Your official plan has actually, your zoning bylaw, sorry, has put the properties into several different zones. So one being A2, which is rural and natural environment and restricted rural area. A lot of areas for the one lot is does meet, which is the lot that is receiving the lands. It does meet your reduced lot regulations under your zoning bylaw, but the retained lands are below that particular lot size. So they will have to come in to do a zoning bylaw amendment, and it is a condition of consent. It is my opinion that it does meet the tests for a minor variance, for a lot addition, and that committee can support that particular application. Thank you.
Planner Hall, for your presentation. That will take us to 8.2, verbal comments. And there's two parts to this part of the meeting. First one is committee members and be followed by public members. So under 8.2.1, committee members, is there any comments or questions regarding this application? Member Hutchinson, I see your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, just a question about the entrance. I'm a little confused in terms of the entrance to the new lands that are severed. It comes off of the highway, and to me it looks like it's a sort of like a laneway rather than an actual entrance. Is that going to be the main entrance then for this to get to this parcel where the paddock and the horse barn is, or is there another entrance, and does it need a fire number?
Okay, thank you, Member Hutchinson. I am going to ask CBO Shipwreck to please come in and maybe answer this question. So I may have to have you repeat it.
Okay.
CBO Shipwreck, we got a question regarding the next application that's before us. So I'm going to have Member Hutchinson ask it again. Please, okay. Go ahead, Member Hutchinson.
Right. So I see it says it's called a farm lane that comes in. And is that the main entrance then to this parcel that's being severed off? It cuts the corner there, but it looks, when it comes off the highway, it looks very much like a farm laneway rather than an entrance. Is that going to be the main entrance? And is there going to be a fire number there? Or is there another one further back here somewhere that I'm not seeing?
Yes, through you, Chair. So both properties currently have an entrance and a residence on the property. So there is an entrance and a civic address for both properties. They're proposing to sever just a piece off because of the current driveway goes through the neighboring property. So they want to sever that portion of the property off to keep the driveway on their property. So the access to both properties isn't going to change. Both properties are owned by the same person, but they are proposing to look at selling in the future, and that's why they want to fix the driveway issue. But the entrances aren't going to change, and the civic addresses will remain the same.
So the main entrance then for that property comes off the second then for the property at the back.
Yeah, so for the house at the rear, which is actually on the southern property, the entrance is off of concession 2, and they currently, because they're both properties are both owned and used by the same people, there's no issue. If they propose to sell it, they will be required to extend concession 2 and bring that up to a municipal standard and bring a new entrance into the property, or they will have to extend the entrance off of Highway 6 to go back up and around to that property at the back. So they can do that with the existing entrance, or they can propose a new entrance, which is their choice. Or they could enter into an agreement with the neighbor for an easement and with a registered on title for that property. But that would be up to the property owners to determine what they choose to do when they sell the property.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it was a little confusing. I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, any
So-
follow-up, Member Hutchinson?
I actually have a comment in regards to the the driveway. If the house that is not on the lands that are being severed, like they're receiving the lands, if they want to come through that driveway in the future, and they could actually do a consent to have an easement across that driveway into that lot as well. That's the other method, rather than extending the road through, if the committee decided to support that or not.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Member Hutchinson?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the committee members? Okay. Seeing none, then we're going to change or turn the application comments to the public portion, which is 8.2.2. And this again, I'm going to get Ms. Ferguson to explain to the virtual, if anybody is on there virtually, how they can participate in this portion of the meeting.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. For members of the public waiting to participate, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. If you've joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair Hutchinson, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak online.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ferguson. Is there anybody attending in person that would like to comment on this application? Okay, seeing none here, then I will go to 8.3, and that's the decision by the committee. Excuse me, what direction would the committee like to take with this application? We'll be looking for a mover, and I do see Member Hutchinson. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I would move that based on the recommendations by the planning staff.
Okay, thank you. Do I do have a move? Can I get a seconder, please? And I see Member Forrester wants to second that. Is there any comments or questions from the committee members? Is everybody clear on what we're voting on? Whose hands up? So what we'll do is I'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. All members are in favor. There's none opposed. This motion is also carried. We'll go back to Planner Hall for 8.4, and that would be next steps.
There is an appeal period in regards to any consent application. Once that appeal period has been completed and there are no appeals, then the applicant is required to fulfill all the conditions that have been imposed. They have up to 2 years to do that. If they complete those conditions within those 2 years, then the consent severance application is issued. If there is an appeal, then obviously that appeal would be dealt with through the land tribunal.
Thank you.
Conditions would still be fulfilled if the tribunal did approve it, would be fulfilled by the municipality typically.
Okay, thank you, Planner Hall. All right, that takes us to item number 9 on today's agenda, and that's consent to sever number B16 2023-501-105 concession 10 NDR. 9.1 is report from the planning staff. If I can get Planner Spencer to read your report to consent to sever B16 2023. And if any staff member did receive any written or verbal comments on this application, they could add that at the end of the presentation. That'd be great. Planner Hall, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this application is actually the first severance to be taken off of an original approximately 100-acre lot. There is an existing house and accessory buildings on the retained land. There was a barn, but the consultant who prepared the report indicated that the barn has been retrofitted to be used as an accessory building and is no longer being used as a barn. There is a barn adjacent to the retained lands, And as a result of that, a minimum distance separation report had to be completed. That report was submitted to the municipality, and it has been reviewed by ourselves as well as the county, and we have no concerns with that. So it is meeting the minimum distance separation that is required. There are 2 intermittent water courses that do traverse the property, but they remain on the retained lands and are not impacted by the severance application that is being proposed before you today. In regards to the provincial policy statements, since there are no resources being impacted and the policies within the county official plan do permit for a consent off an original 48-hectare property, and this is the first one. It does meet the intent of the official plan. The retained lands will not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. So as a result of that, there will be a requirement as a condition for zoning bylaw amendment. And as such, we are recommending the consent application before you today.
Thank you, Planner Hall. Okay, 9.2 is where we're at in the agenda. That's verbal comments. First part is for the committee members to comment, ask any questions, and we'll follow that with the public comments. So committee members, any comments or questions on this application at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on then to 9.2.2. Again, I'm going to ask Ms. Ferguson, and the reason we constantly repeat this because some people do join after, and I want to make sure that everyone understands clearly on how they can participate. So I'll let you, Ms. Ferguson, explain virtually how people can participate, and then anybody in the public that would like to will follow up with that. Ms. Ferguson.
Through you, Chair. For members of the public waiting to participate, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. If you've joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair, I'm not seeing anyone wishing to speak online.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. So anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this application? And we do have one. If I get you just to press the button, state your name for the record, and the floor is yours. Welcome, Mr. Davidson.
Yeah, it didn't seem to be working. That's my excuse. I'm Ron Davidson. I'm a planning consultant. Hi, Mary. Nice to meet you. It's been a while. I was your planner for 16, 17 years. And then about 3 years ago, I had to give that up and haven't been back since. So it's great to be back. What can I tell you? I don't have much to say here. The application, Mary did a fine job in presenting it. I represent the Brendorfers. They could not make it today. Mary mentioned that as a condition of consent, a zoning bylaw amendment application will be required. It's right here. It'll be dropped off in a couple minutes. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson, and welcome back. Does anybody have any questions from the committee to Mr. Davidson before we move on? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That is going to take us to number 9.3 on the agenda, decision by the committee. So what direction would the committee like to take with this application? Member Townsend, go ahead, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we follow the recommendations as outlined in the report by staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Eccles, you want to second that one, sir? Okay, is everyone clear on the recommendation before us? Any questions? Will we call the vote? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, you could raise your hand, please. All members are in favor. There's none opposed. That motion has also carried. And that will take us to item number 9.4, sorry. And Planner Hall, what would be the next steps?
Similar to the previous severance application, there will be an appeal period. If there's no appeals made to the consent application, then the applicant is required to fulfill those conditions within 2 years. If there's an appeal, then the land tribunal will make that decision in regards to the consent application. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Hall. Well, that's, we got to item number 10, which is the next meeting, and that is scheduled for October the 5th at 2023 at 2 p.m. And item number 11 is the adjournment, and I can declare that today's business on today's agenda is all complete. Pardon me? Three? Did I put? Yeah, I was like the 5th. Correction, October 3rd. I thought it was the 5th, but
We're all awake. We're catching.
I'm good. Well, thank you. We are
Thanks for
paying
your time.
attention. So I will declare that all the business on today's agenda is complete, and we will call that an adjournment. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and welcome to our new staff members.